welcome to Conscious Conversations.
Thank you.
Conscious Conversations, yeah, it's where we discuss health, wellness, spirituality concepts, theologies, modalities. Really, so my intention for this space is to invite people to find
hmm
their truth and their path in this work. And this podcast is really an extension of the work that I do with Conscious Concierge, which
hmm
is a bridge. It's a bridge to many different paths one can take in their health, wellness, and spiritual journey. I'm a firm believer that there's not one path and everyone's so unique. And so I like to be the bridge and
hmm
showcase the different options and theologies and modalities and let people decide what resonates for them.
I love that.
Thank you. Yeah. Well, I'm excited to have you on. I've been following you for a bit and I really just resonate with your content. So that's why I reached out and was like, I want to have a conversation with this person. There's a few topics that I'd like to dive in with you, which would be first and foremost on what is a spiritual awakening,
hmm
grounded spirituality. What does that mean? And romantic relationships on this path. So why don't we start with
hmm
you introducing yourself and what you do before we dive into those topics?
All right. So my name is Nicolas Canon. I'm from Colombia originally, born and raised. What I do, that's such a hard question, but
Yeah.
I see myself as a gardener of
Mm,
people, of souls, of humans. What that means in a more practical way is, sometimes you look at a piece of soil or a plant that is not blooming and it needs a little bit of shit thrown to it. It needs a little bit of that, or maybe it needs a bit of pruning, which may be painful in the moment, but long term it contributes to blooming. Or maybe it only needs a little bit of water or a little bit of light, right? And the work that I do throughout the different businesses that I have is about that, is noticing what someone needs and tending to that. And sometimes what people need is a lot of deep emotional compassion, space holding kind of love. And very often what is needed is the other side of that, which is a more igniting, confronting, contrasting kind of love, the
yeah.
uncomfortable kind. So I do this with there's three businesses that I run with my wife. First one is Ayahuasca Colombia, which is
Mhm.
ayahuasca retreats in
Mhm.
Colombia with Colombian elders, like indigenous shamans from a lineage of generations. The second thing is Breath Academy and Breath of Freedom, which is more, my wife is in charge of that, but that is using our breath, our connection to this life, the prana,
Mm.
to do the same thing that we will do with ayahuasca, but just, get high on our own supply, move a
Yeah.
lot of the stuff that is stagnant within us and tap into altered states of consciousness, but above all into vitality, healing, self-love and whatnot, and releasing stuck emotions. And then finally there is I do private coaching and mentoring with men predominantly, and
Mhm.
this is what I call post-success crisis people. So there's the first mountain that most of humanity most of us waste a big chunk of our life, or not wasted, but we spend a big chunk of our life chasing the first, which is survival. And survival for some people is just a roof and guaranteed food and a job that pays every month. For some
Yeah.
other people, survival is a 9-10 figure exit. And
Yeah.
I work with men that have had that exit and realize on the other side of that I thought I was free now and I feel miserable. I don't know what to do with myself. Like I won the game that I was told I had to play, way beyond what I will ever need when it comes to money and opportunities and connections and whatnot.
Yeah.
And now what? Right. And this is where perhaps our conversation is going to bring us together today, and is the and now what, which is the beginning of a spiritual journey, is that is like, oh, I've tried all of this, and I realized that isn't quite it. Even
Yeah.
Patanjali in the Yoga Sutras, the whole in the that transmission starts with "and now yoga," which means, like, it's very precise phrasing of that. It's not just let me tell you about yoga. No, it's like "and now yoga," which means you've lived life as you thought it was, and you realize there's nothing for you there.
Yeah.
There's some entertainment, some distraction, nothing wrong with that. You can play, but eventually it's like, okay, and now we steer our attention towards what truly matters. So
Yeah.
I meet people where they're at, and I'm in a journey of supporting them in turning their attention towards what truly matters.
I love that. I love the gardening example. I think there's a lot of resonance because when I meet with someone for a consultation, I'm looking at like their mental, their physical, their spiritual, their emotional.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I'll connect somebody with a functional medicine practitioner to help them get mold out
Mm-hmm.
of their body. And then sometimes they're going to ayahuasca, and sometimes they're going to, you know, a breathwork experience. It's like, where are they at? So
Mm-hmm.
I love that. Did you have that journey yourself and therefore start coaching other people on that similar journey of thinking you had everything and then winning the game and realizing that wasn't it?
Yeah, I had my version of it, which was late 20s. At one point, I found myself with way more money than I had ever made. I opened my own tattoo studio here in Toronto, and I went from making $3,000 a month to making well over that in a day, consistently, with like months of clients waiting to work with me. And um, a lot of people would pay cash, so I had literally had a good Colombian, a bag of cash under my desk, and it was just a plastic bag, and it was just, I didn't know how much money I had. I was just throwing the money in there, and whenever I wanted to go out and party at the time, just
Yeah.
put the hand, grab whatever I grabbed, that's the budget for the night, and that's it.
Yeah.
And I thought I made it. I dated a woman back then with whom we consider ourselves open-minded.
Hmm.
In retrospect, I see there was a lot of wounds at play, but we had an open relationship,
Mm.
and we explored a lot in that regard. We with with other women, and I thought, wow, you know what? I'm here. I have money. I have women.
Mm.
I have a partner that likes women. So,
Mm.
like, check whatever I was sold, like a man having a lot of women, a man being
Yeah.
covered in tattoos. Around that time, I was taking steroids for a few months. So I was like 200 pounds of, just a lot of anger and muscles. And I thought, I'm strong, I'm powerful, I have money, I have health, I
Yeah.
have women. Like, that's it, I made it. And it didn't take too long after I was sitting in that arrogance of thinking, you know what, I'm the man, and I built this for myself and whatnot. Probably took like 2 weeks between that moment and when literally I felt the rug was pulled from underneath me and everything started to break apart. It started with my relationship. Um, we had a very painful breakup, and then I started to spiral into substance abuse, alcohol, drugs. I had a couple of overdoses, and then I started not showing up to work. Like, everything started crumbling at the same time, and I realized at that moment that, like, what's going on? Like, there's something here that is consuming me.
Yeah.
Where the parties could not help me deal with the pain that I felt. The
Yeah.
women, the swiping on Tinder was not
Yeah.
helpful. The drugs, maybe I will be distracted for a few hours or a night and then wake up feeling even worse. And definitely most of the friends that I had were not people with whom I could openly talk about these things, because we all, I mean, that's the thing with a lot of addiction, that people don't want to accept it's an addiction. Is like, if I'm in denial, I need friends who are also in denial, so we look at each other and we can tell, oh, it's fine, it's just normal, it's we have this unconscious agreement. Humanity has lots of these where we look at each other and we say like, it's okay, it's normal, I'm doing the same, you're doing the same, we're cool. Because that helps us not to have to be confronted with what we're doing and take responsibility and accountability for that. So that was the moment for me where I had a lot of money, I had a lot of women, I had like good health, and I was in good shape,
Yeah.
um, and I felt completely empty, and I felt like I was being consumed by that kind of life, and I felt restless. I had a lot of stuck emotions in my heart. I didn't know how to feel them. I had a lot of suppressed anger, and I realized that there was something underneath all of this. Because I realized, okay, like sure, the breakup was painful, but it spiraled. So it was a spark that ignited something that was already within me, and that forced me into looking at the mirror and trying to figure out like what's going on. Why is this happening? The main
Yeah.
thing, the first step of that journey was actually I went to a floating tank here in Toronto, and I was doing 2 hours at a time back then, just to like try and calm myself down and understand what's going on. And this one morning, I started thinking, why is it so hard for me to forget about this woman that I just broke up with? Why is it so hard to let her go? I know mentally that we're not good for each other. We've been very toxic towards each other. We've broken trust, probably beyond the point of repair. I know we're not good for each other. So why am I clinging so badly? And I was willing to answer this question, because before I was just pointing the finger, saying like she's this, and that, and it's her fault. This day I thought, you know what? There's something here for me. I am the one that is attached to this toxicity. And I asked myself that question, and I realized, oh, actually, you know what? With her, I feel loved. At times, there's a lot of chaos, but there are pockets of love. I feel really loved, and that's what I like. That brings me a sense of comfort. And I realized, well, of course, because without her, I don't have access to those emotions. I don't know how to love myself if that's not being mirrored, or if I'm not kind of sucking that out of a woman. If
Yeah.
I'm not like a leech of love trying to just get my fix at the expense of somebody else, or using somebody else, which I would say probably like 99% of human relationships are these. We are using each other to reassure ourselves, to not feel lonely, to not feel unlovable. And in my case, I thought, okay, why don't I love myself? And then right away it came like, hey, like how, like, do you trust yourself? I'm like, oh, I don't know. Like sometimes I make stupid decisions. Sometimes I indulge in things that are not healthy. Like I don't know if I trust myself fully. It's like, okay, so how about you start there? I'm like, how can I trust myself? And then I thought, well, you need to spend time with someone to really, really know their character and trust them. And I realized in that moment that, whoa, I don't spend time alone. I'm always
Hmm.
watching something, hanging out, working, doing something. Even me time will be watching a movie, reading a book, doing something. And I realized, how can I love myself? How can I trust myself if I have not spent time just me with my eyes closed, sitting with the life that I am? And
Yeah.
that felt crazy, because I thought, what doing nothing? That's boring. Um, and a friend invited me around the same time to go to a vision quest, which for people that
Hmm.
don't know, it's
Oh
4 days and 4 nights. You basically plant yourself in the mountain. You build a circle with stones and twigs that you don't come out of for those days. You drive fast. Some places you water fast, and a shaman drops you there, and you cannot step out of that circle. You have a hammock and a tarp. Whatever happens, rain, sunshine, you have to stay there with zero distraction, just you and yourself, and prayer if that's your thing. And I realized, you know what, I this is what I need, because I need an environment where I have no other choice than to look within.
And at that point, had you sat with ayahuasca, or that was your first experience, Vision Quest?
No, I had started ayahuasca years prior, but I don't consider that. I was not prepared. I didn't do
Yeah.
a diet. It was like I was in Colombia. Friends say, "Hey man, we're going tonight to this thing in the mountains." I'm like, "Count me in." And I drank it. I felt super sick. I had a horrible experience. It was
Mm,
so I don't count that because
yeah,
it was not
yeah,
very intentional.
yeah.
So yeah,
Makes
I was not in the medicine or spirituality world at that time.
well, wow, Vision Quest is quite the way to get into it. The I guess we'll start with spiritual awakening. So, what does it mean to you to spiritually awaken? Because I feel like this is becoming a big topic, not just in our world, in the mainstream world. People are using the term awaken, but what does that mean to you? And I can share with you after what it means to me, but I'm curious what it means to you.
Hmm. Mm, to me, put in a crude way, spiritual awakening is to drop our stupidity of thinking that the world that I create in my mind could be greater, better in any way than the creator's world. What that means is a lot of people think spiritual awakening, enlightenment is a place we get to and somewhere we arrive after we've done a lot of work. And actually, anyone that has touched that place or state of samadhi, a common experience is maybe at first terror and afterwards laughter because it's the great cosmic joke, and it's so silly and it's been hiding under our nose, and it's a homecoming. It's like, oh, this is it, and the awakening being actually being present to our life in its in the miracle that it is,
Yeah.
not in not in, oh, I need to call this person, I need to send an email to that client, my ex did this thing to me, my dad, my not in the melodrama, not in the past that we regurgitate, not in the future that we anticipate or we actually want to avoid, but actually coming to the realization that this moment is all we've been looking for, and that comes with an understanding that we are not the mind and we're not the body. So I think that's when the spirit awakens, which is the spirit as the electricity that fuels everything that we see, everything that we are, all of life, all of the things that move and don't move. um, every particle that is vibrating in this universe is fueled by the same electricity, by the same spirit. So the moment that I get to experience myself as that, I consider which is being present, really, that is the spiritual awakening, where I, even if just for a few seconds or for a few moments, I realize, oh, I'm not Nicholas, I'm not this body, I'm not a man. Like I am not the labels that identify me. Then we go beyond the physical, beyond the boundaries of the five senses, uh, and we feel something much deeper that transcends our skin. I
Yeah.
think the moment we taste that, and for some people it's psychedelics, for some people it's breathwork, for some people it's near death experiences, music, love making. We all touch it in a different way. Um, Grace, ultimately, whatever that is, as soon as we get a glimpse of that, there's a deep knowing, like this is the way, this is home, and we may spend the rest of our life integrating that, anchoring that, embodying that.
Yeah. That part for sure. I mean, all of it is that's it's a great explanation of it. And you know, I feel like every time I think I know what spiritually awakening feels like, I enter a different level of it. And for me, the terror part is, you know, candidly what I'm experiencing now. Because if I look back, I feel like I spiritually awakened 4 years ago when I first sat with Aya. But this year, I feel like the awakening this time was on such a deep level. I was completely disoriented, you know? And I've been sharing more my personal stuff, not just like I'm the person you come to for the things, like just like the real rawness of what this looks like. And I would love to talk more about that terror because I even find it hard to explain to people what I'm experiencing or what I have experienced with it. And I think that a lot of the time we glamorize, or I've seen glamorization of spiritual awakening. And so people chase that. But for me, it has been the most destabilizing, disorienting, most challenging thing I've ever gone through. So, with all that said, the terror part, can you elaborate
Hmm.
more on that from your perspective?
Yeah. So I see it as maybe the terror that a little bird experiences the first time that is pushed off the branch on the way down, which is knowing that things will never be the same on one hand, having a lot of fear and uncertainty because it's dancing with the unknown. Really, like our mind, our logic is the known. Oh, this is what I'm gonna do tomorrow. This is my plan. These are my dreams. This is who I am. This is my past. This is my history. We hold on to that for safety. So as we awaken, the more awaken or awake. It's not like you can measure it, but
Yeah.
the the deeper our relationship with God or with spirit, the more we dance with chaos, with the great mystery, as indigenous people called it. And as the bird is coming down, it's like it knows, a part of it knows it can fly, but it doesn't know itself as an animal that can fly yet. Maybe not in this round yet, not in this lifetime. It's about to happen, and it needs to reach for it from a place that where it doesn't know. It's
Yeah.
heard it's possible. It has seen others that some birds fly. I know that. I've read books of that. I don't know if I can fly. And when it's pushed, there's that terror of knowing that it cannot go back because shit's happening,
Yeah.
and there's only one way out. There's two ways. One is it resists and it crashes, or it surrenders and it flies. So the terror of spiritual awakening, in my experiences, is the fragmentation of everything we were that was built in untruth. It's like a sand castles, basically. That's all we're doing most of the time with our lives, building sand castles that anyways they come and go, but the biggest one being our identity. And
Yeah.
for at least in my experience, and many of the people that I have worked with, the moment that we start to realize that the identity was formed on the side effects of trauma, of survival, of coping, and the moment that we integrate the pain, the stories that created that trauma, then we lose part of ourselves. And that's really scary, because it's like we've had these shoes our whole life, and suddenly it starts to hurt, our feet hurt, and we can't walk too far, and we have to stop, and we're thinking, what's going on? I used to be able to run, I used to be able to have fun. My little sneakers, they have the laser lights that shine when you jump around, but they hurt, and they start to maybe smell bad, and it just feels so uncomfortable.
Yeah.
One day we have to stop and realize that our feet have grown, that we have to let them go, not because there's anything wrong with them, but because it's no longer a fit to who we are. So the terror comes when we have expanded, when at the energy level, we have expanded past our identity, who we used to be, very often past the life that we see reflected around us,
Yeah.
but we do not yet know how to integrate, how to actualize and embody the life that we now know ourselves as.
Yeah.
It's like, so we have to walk barefoot for some time, and our feet are going to hurt, and we're going to think, fuck, maybe I should not have let go of those shoes. Maybe I
Yeah.
did something wrong. I should not have drunk that thing in the jungle. um, and then eventually we find better fit shoes, and we're like, oh, like this is it. And the moment will come when we realize that even also those shoes we have to let go at one point. So the tether is the constant surrendering of all of the identities that we have, not because there's anything wrong with them. They serve a purpose, but because no matter what label, no matter what container we place around life, we will always find that it feels too tight, that it feels constraining.
Yeah. Yeah. I have been talking about this concept of um like the last year I've just felt like I was dying, and I went to every doctor in Miami and New York, and um you know my physical body felt like it was dying, like my mind felt like it was just everything. And it's hard to navigate that when you don't really know what's going on, right? In like this world, they'd probably put me in the psych ward if I didn't have the community that I have. And
Hmm.
so I just try to bring awareness to what I see, which is the real need, and what I've experienced is the real need for integration, proper integration. Um, and I think the deeper levels that I've experienced with these deaths and feeling like I'm going crazy, and for years on end, has really opened my eyes to the need to bring more education on
Hmm.
what people could be experiencing, because I had all the community in the world and I was still like, I can't do this anymore.
Hmm. Yeah.
So
It,
yeah.
it's it, it's a bit tragic, but it's experience for many people, because especially in the West, especially in North America, um,
Yeah.
we are, or to some degree, most people are spiritual orphans. Like in the
Hmm.
past, in India, even in South America, you have elders,
Yeah.
you have a guru, you have a place where there's at least one person who knows what you're going through and
Yes.
knows how to guide you through it, uh, because they've been guiding people for centuries, and the wisdom is there. But today, yeah, most people are disconnected. Most people ridicule or think it's unnecessary to have an elder, to have mentors, to have lineages, to be connected into a tradition. We are in our hyper individualism. I think in our arrogance, we think we're too cool for school, and hey, I can navigate it on my own. And the truth is that, like, sure, we can do it on our own. It's gonna be more painful, and it's gonna take much longer, because it's like we can go from one side of the jungle to the other one by ourselves. We can figure it out. We've got this lifetime. If we're hungry, we'll figure it out.
Yeah.
But it's not the same than going with, let's say, an indigenous person that knows point A, point B, and where are the holes and where are the tigers and where you don't step and what things you don't eat. But we try to make it on our own way and find our way, and we spin our wheels. We run in circles. We eat the poison thing. We fight with some animals. Maybe we still come out the other side, but with an unnecessary thing, because we disconnected from lineages, traditions that have been going for thousands and thousands of years.
Yeah.
um yeah, so I I do see that we are spiritual orphans,
Good way to put it. Yeah.
and a big part of I think for future generations, part of the work that we are doing has to be to lay down tools, blueprints, and
Yeah.
um, ideally bodies of work where people that are going through spiritual emergencies or a lot of confusion around this, like, hey, I was happier when I was not into spirituality, or when
Yeah.
the how do you call it, ignorance is, I
Bliss.
forgot. Yeah, that idea, which is just, I think it's just painful. I think being numb is not being blissful. But a lot of people that enter this journey, I've been there as well, where I'm thinking like, oh my god, did I mess my life up? I used to be so certain about everything, who I
I know.
am, what I want to do, with my days, the women I like,
Yeah.
the women I don't like. And suddenly it's like, I don't know who I am, I don't know what I want to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That part. I think two things. One, I do feel it is challenging because we are partaking in these experiences that are indigenous, but we ourselves are not, a lot of us are not of that lineage, right? So, my family's Italian and Jewish, and I didn't choose to go to church and follow that path of Christianity. And with my dad's family,
Mhm.
they're Orthodox Jewish, and I didn't choose to follow that path. So, finding another path, but not being of that tribe is, I think, also very challenging, because then the orphan analogy is really a great way to put it.
My experience with this is not like a path, a lineage, a guru. You don't choose it. Like the
Yeah.
teacher chooses you. So before that, our work is in exploring, making yourselves available. Ultimately, there is just one path, and we are all indigenous of the earth. I feel that there's this narrative of, oh, I can't I can't receive the wisdom of the European tribes because I'm South American, or there's a lot of these, which I think is, I have not met a single elder, and I know some very wise indigenous elder that looks at a foreigner and thinks that person doesn't belong here,
Yeah,
or that
exactly.
that's or that things like, it's like, no, it's like, hey, yeah, they're also sons, daughters of the earth. That's
Yeah.
it. The qualifying criteria has been met.
Yeah.
um Anything above that is assumptions, judgment, from the mind, a lot of white guilt I've seen in some places, like, oh, I shouldn't be doing this with indigenous people, because it's like, no, you know what, if as long as whatever we touch, whatever we receive, we hold it with this, we receive it with, what's the word, as something sacred. We're
Yeah.
impeccable with it, as long as we're humble as well about it, like, not like, hey, I drank medicine for a few months, then I'm just gonna go back to Europe and serve ayahuasca in a warehouse and call myself
Yeah.
a shaman.
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
but on the other hand, like, there's only one path, which is life. And it's like, oh, should I learn to ride a bicycle, or should I learn to cook, or should I learn to write, or like, it's all needed for different things. So sometimes we are pulled towards different parts of different traditions.
Yeah.
That's life handing us, like, hey, you're going through a rejection of your humanity and your desire and your creative forces. Then maybe you start resonating more with a tantric lineage around that time, because you have to drop that, or maybe with the teachings of Krishna, because you're becoming detached in the mind, which is the opposite of deep involvement. Or, hey,
Yeah.
maybe you're being consumed by a lot of things, by your emotions, by the drama. Maybe you don't have yet, you're not rooted enough yet to navigate a lot of energy. Then
Yeah.
maybe you're thrown into a more uh, pragmatic or meditative approach. Or, hey, like in my case, like, my experience with the medicine year and a half ago was, hey, like your foliage, like up your crown, things are so open, but you lack grounding. Like you have to go back, you have to hit the gym, play, have sex with your wife, grow your business. Like you have to plug yourself deeply into your humanity, otherwise things are going to break. So
Yeah.
um so the path is way too wide and way too big and way too perfect for us to ever fall off it or ever think that we are choosing. Like the mere act of choosing means that we still believe in the illusion that there are two paths or that things are separate or different. We No matter how hard we try, there's nothing we could do that will steer us off the path. There's nothing we could do that will not sooner or later serve us in our growth. And the more that we can relax into that, the more that actually whatever is needed is provided when
Yeah.
it is needed.
Yeah. And that was the whole foundation of why I started this is like, here's so many different tools and things and people to connect you with that can, have these different ways of being and that can change at different points of your life, right? So, studying with ayahuasca for me for a couple of years was what the path was, and the path is the path. So I worked on other things, and it's what I needed at that point in my life. And so, yeah, I think that is very true. And the second part of what I was going to say is, when the path gets heavy, have you ever wondered, like, is this even worth it? Like, have you been to that place before?
Not if it's worth it. I have questioned if I have what it takes.
Mm,
Never if it's worth it. I Yeah, like I've not for a second ever I have doubted that it is worth it. I have doubted, like, fuck, do I have it in me?
yeah.
I'd say, like, I don't think our souls, anyone could ever consider if it's worth it. It's like going to the gym. I don't think anyone sits there and thinks like, is it worth it? We all know we're gonna feel much better. It's gonna be good for us. Going for a run, whatever.
Yeah.
The question really is like, do I have what it takes to do I feel worthy of it? And do I have the strength? Am I capable? Uh, am I ready for what is being asked of me? So I've had many of those moments.
Yeah. That's a great way to put it. I want to talk about grounded spirituality. So we talked about awakening, we talked about how that can feel, and, the different ways of how that can happen. Um, what do you feel like grounded spirituality means to you?
It is our ability to play with life, to stop hiding. Grounded spirituality is my ability to drop the bullshit idea that spirituality is somewhere other than in this moment. Or because I am more available when I go to a church, when I pray, when I meditate, when I drink a plant medicine. Maybe I get confused and I think that's where God lies, that's where he or she resides. Grounded spirituality is understanding that it's been my receptivity what has changed, but this moment has stayed the same. So if I can become receptive in my day to day, as I wash the dishes, as I say good morning to my wife, as I get upset with my wife, can I see the face of the great mother on my wife when she's angry, when she's upset at me? On the email that I get from a client that is having a difficult time, on the message from the content with how much the government wants to tax me this year? Can I look at all of it without flinching, without rejecting, or without wanting to look away? That's what grounded spirituality is being total, being 100% involved in this moment. And in that involvement, in that relationship, in that intimacy with this moment, God, in the Hindu traditions, they refer to it as the great mother, Shakti, the energy that fuels all of creation, the engine of creation. Like once we are willing to see her, to see this moment for all that it is, it starts communicating with us, it starts speaking to us. Then it's no longer in a psychedelic journey, in a deep meditation, in church, or in a musical experience at the peak of a mountain. But then it becomes the look on the face of our children, their tears, the hug of a loved one, and their departure as they pass away. It becomes the joy of a financial success, and also the series of random occurrences that destroy it all. And it's learning to see all of that as God, so that it's no longer an idea or a place that I visit when I get high on something, even if it's my breath or prayer, but as the moment that I live. And in that process, in my willingness to be in this dance, then God acts through me. That's for me grounded spirituality. We become vessels of consciousness, because to be present in this moment, we have to be conscious. And no one in the history of humanity has committed any bad action or any action of negative consequences while being conscious. That's all is happening. So if I'm conscious, everything that I do is going to come from a very, very deep, pure, creative place. So grounded spirituality is clearing my channel to be in right relationship with this moment, so that the way that I walk, the way that I talk, the way that I eat, the way that I wash the dishes, the way that I hug my wife, the way that I argue with my wife, the way that I celebrate my wins, the way that I navigate my losses, so that all of it is done with deep attention, appreciation, and as if it was a gift from the divine, because it is. That to me is grounded spirituality, living in that place, but not as a mental idea. Oh yeah, this is no, but being able to feel it in our bodies, like really, really feeling in every part of our skin, in everything that we look at, just to feel the permeating presence of the Creator, and realize that this is, if there is heaven, this is it. This is the bonus level. If we pay attention, no need for miracles. If we are present to the present, that's what it is to me. To if I've told many people, if life is not lacking in magic, we are lacking in sensitivity. We don't pay attention. And the moment someone pays attention, the moment a person pays attention for the first time, they'll sob for days on end, for hours at least, because it's all so beautiful, even especially the messy parts of it.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. And I like when you talk about it's in like the little moments, because I think there is again a glamorization of it happening in the journeys. So that's why so many people keep going back. And I myself, even like the 13th time I sat, I remember thinking like, am I even like, my community was there and my friends, and I felt like I wanted to be there with my friends versus like really get more information and sit. And it was the most challenging ceremony I've ever had, and put me into a death portal for a long time. And my point in sharing that is like, feel like there's a lot of focus on the actual sitting with the medicine and being in ceremonies, but feel like what I hope to bring more conversations on is how important the other moments outside of that are
Hmm. Yeah.
beyond just drinking medicine or being in an experience. And I guess I would call it like a peak experience.
I feel those experiences, they can be very profound and useful. Let's say in my case, it created a neural pathway of remembrance. Like, oh, this is it. This is what being in connection with God, with myself, with life feels like. This is who I am. And then we come down, and then the work starts, because sure, that's who I am when I am leveraging the energy of a different being, a plant spirit, but it's metabolized, it's digested out of my system, and here I am with more clarity, with more insight, but no actualization and no embodiment yet. This is a big mistake that a lot of people think. They think that that insight equals growth. No, and insight is amazing, but we can become uh, armchair philosophers, and I know many people like this, that
So true.
they can tell you everything about the astral and God and the spirits and the creation of the universe, and they struggle with their partners, with toxic habits, with a lot of different things. Why is that happening? Because they're not yet conscious. They have seen, they've gotten a glimpse of what consciousness is, of who they are. And I see it like our unconsciousness is this big wall. Plant medicines are like a trampoline. They let us see what's on the other side of that wall, and we see it for a few hours, and just seeing that, even just seeing it once, is enough to motivate a lifetime of wanting to get past that wall, because it's so beautiful on the other side and so cold and dark in this other one. But as we sit with these medicines, sure, there's work that is done, there's purification that happens, there's many things that happen, but we're not staying there, we're coming back down. And this is why processes like yoga, or like having a proper walking a specific path by the side of a guide or a mentor, is so essential, because the mentor is usually someone that has jumped enough times to realize, okay, I know what's on the other side, and I know that when I come back to where I am a little bit better, for sure, with a little bit more clarity. But I want to live there, I want to stay there, so I'm going to build myself uh, like a set of stairs. And I know it's a tall wall, but if I keep building it, I'm gonna get to the other side. So integration, I see it as that, is like you have the trust, you have the faith. Now it's not even faith; is knowing. You know who you are. You know what that arrival, that homecoming feels like, and now you start walking the journey to remove all that's in the way. Because the other side of that, um, like especially psychedelic experience that is unintegrated, becomes fuel for the inflation of the ego. It's like if there's a lot of energy that was created up here and is not made conscious into a transformed way of living, first it's a waste. It's a waste of medicine, it's a waste of time. It doesn't matter if you saw God, it doesn't matter. Like, it's completely useless for someone to see God, spirits, or whatnot, Jesus, if they go back to their life and they're not more conscious. They don't live better. They're still compulsive, entangled with little things. That becomes completely useless. It's just a waste of life. Um,
Yeah.
and what happens very often for people is this: is if the experience is not integrated, their egos become inflated. It's like, oh, I've seen that I am a powerful being. Oh, I'm a goddess. I'm the king of the astral plane. I was a warrior. This is, I always find this funny. Everyone's spirit, anyone power animal or spirit animal, it's always an eagle, a tiger.
I never.
Uh, you never see like a little rat or a street pigeon. Also, everyone was a shaman, a warrior in their past life, or an Isis, how
Yeah.
you call them, priestess. I'm not
Yeah.
saying this is not true. It was likely the case for many people, but no one was a plumber, no one was a criminal. It's like, the the mind has its tendencies, its bias, and it's very easy to live a fantasy world. It could be true,
Yeah.
but it doesn't fucking matter, because it's not the life that we're living right now. And what matters more is like, all right, sure, take what you learn, take the beauty you connected to,
Yeah.
make it real. But there, a lot of people is like, oh, I'm just gonna change my name, or I'm just gonna dress differently and walk like I'm levitating. But I have not done any work. I have not gotten beyond my disconnection, beyond my fears. I have not started living with more courage. And I think I find that quite sad, especially if sacred medicines are being used, because it's like, we don't know how fortunate we are right now. It was not the case for hundreds of years that people outside of a community, even people that were not the shaman, could drink these
Yeah.
medicines. It was not the case, and right now it's just, there's hundreds of these happening every night throughout the world, and we take it for granted. Before, it was something that we had to earn, and the earning happened in the building of that ladder, in that walking, taking those steps to reach to a point where it's like, you know what, I'm ready to actually receive whatever the medicine wants to give me,
Yeah.
and honor it and treat it as sacred, instead of one more trip to the collection.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so true. I feel like it is such a blessing, and I just feel now more than ever so I'm just lately feeling really cognizant of myself and other people, of like, I don't want to say misuse, but a ungrounded use. And that's been my concern, is like, are these people getting the proper support? Are they getting the proper guidance? Are they really sitting with people who are elders and who are indigenous and who know this path well? And I think, again, this all came up for me because it was just how challenging it was for me to go through post in this process. But yeah, I just hope that people have more support as they
Hmm.
navigate this amazing and miraculous space.
Hmm.
Yeah. Well, we touched on the relationship part a little actually in the beginning, but I saw what you posted about the Aubrey Marcus debacle. Um,
Yeah, a man who has not yet met God through his woman, like no amount of women will be enough. But for a man
yeah,
who has, that's all
yeah,
he needs.
yeah. I love that. And I definitely, I think that this kind of opened a lot for a lot of us in this community, and we all got to see the reflection that we see for ourselves and whatever teachings and learnings there is there for us. Um, there was a part of me that on one hand was like, what do I know? To each their own. Like, everybody has their own truth. But then there was a part of me that felt, when I saw you post that, I was like, that's really how I feel. How do you arrive at that point versus, maybe that's just someone's truth in the space of men and women being together in relationships?
Hmm. I think this word gets thrown around loosely. Oh, this is my truth. It's like, no, that's your experience. But truth, there's only one truth. I don't know it, you don't know it. We both live it, and if we're conscious enough, we can attune to it. But my truth, your truth, no. There's one truth, and the rest is our subjective human experience that is full of bias, it can be biased given what we had for lunch today, given the type of bacteria we have in our gut. Maybe I have a higher tendency to get grumpy today, and I can say this is my truth. Like, no, this is what my microbiome is telling me to feel inclined towards today. So it's very subjective. We're generally very fragmented, and we think like, no, I know exactly who I am and what I want. It's unlikely. Now, when it came to that situation, I for sure that is their experience and their approach to it, and I it's all I know, and I don't comment on whether it's a good or a bad choice for him, for them. But I see a lot of things in him that I lived like myself, and by all means very different. He's older. I was in my 20s, so God knows. But I remember very clearly that for me, when I was in my 20s, and like there's something for a lot of men, especially men that have an attractive partner or that know they are attractive, and men that have money or status. There's something around the relationship with power where we confuse I want for I need or I must have. Because power is about that. Like, can I like bend this world to my will? Can I create whatever I want? Can I put my dent in the world, and just if I think it, I make it happen? And I remember being consumed by that, like thinking that because I want to have a threesome with my partner, like I need a woman that is into other women. I thought it was a need. It's like, no, it's a desire. Since when wanting something was not enough? Since when feeling the desire was not enough? On one hand of that. And now, is that even my desire? Did I pick it up because of the pornography that was passed on to me when I was 14 years old by my neighbor? Maybe it's not even mine. Maybe it's just in the collective field, something that I grabbed from whatever I was exposed to. But beyond that, the feeling that 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 I should pursue everything that I want is a dangerous one, and a lot of men that have a lot of power, a lot of money, a lot of time in their hands. It's like, what else can I create? What is the next challenge that I can put myself into? The next way in which I can bend the world to my will? And because the drive is to experience ourselves as powerful men that create that, that we can influence life around us. There is a very thin line where we can start crossing that, and where we are not okay with not having what we want. And this one was very difficult for me to understand. It's like, why can I not have what I want? Why, if I am a creator being, why can I not have what I want? And it's a bit of a juvenile tantrum that for me today, like, why can I not have what I want? It's like, you know what? Right now I say, hey, like, this is what I want, God. But like, my prayer is, let my will surrender to your will. And please, if what I want is not in service to my life and to life, like, I'm willing to drop it. Show me better. Because I've improved over and over through my life, especially in my 20s, especially when I was sexually promiscuous, that what I wanted, like, if I could have had what I thought I wanted back then, like, my life would be total chaos. I thought I wanted to marry two women at the same time and live in a love triangle and all different things. And today I'm thinking that would have been total chaos. And it was coming from the wrong place. I just had not matured enough to realize it was just a want. It was okay not to have it. I do not have to. My life doesn't have to be full of every. We have a word for this in Spanish. It's called capricho. I forgot how it is in English. Like, any random craving that we have. It's okay we don't have it, because maybe it's coming from the mind, maybe it's just our hormones, maybe I have too much testosterone, and I'm facing the stage of boredom, of familiarity with with my wife, and then I looked at this other woman and I feel all of my things fire up, and I say, well, my truth is that I also want her. It's like partially, like, sure, our biology as men looks at that and thinks, oh, reproductive potential, spread your seed. But what level is being expressed? Is it the part of me that has integrated that? Is it the part of me that is still enslaved to his impulses, that had a very hard time being rejected by women or not feeling good enough, that eventually realized, like, hey, like, if I want a woman, I will have her, and if I want to create something, I want to make it happen. Because on the other side of that, not having what I want just felt like failure, like not being good enough, like uh, despair. So I experienced that, and I wouldn't be surprised if this is at the root of what's unfolding there. Um, I know for a fact that to live a life of deep spiritual awareness, and this is not about what is good or what is bad. I don't care for what society thinks is good or bad. Like, my whole life I've followed what made sense to me. But now I've seen that if you want to live a life of being spiritually awakened, which we talked about earlier, which is being fully present and feeling the miracle of this life and the bliss and the grace of God, not in a ceremony, but in the ceremony of life, being receptive, like the depth of my availability is the depth of my experience is really what determines it. It's like, if I'm numb, I just see a laptop and that's it, and I'm talking to a woman in Miami. If I'm really receptive, then at the core of it, there's no you and me. There's something happening, conversation happening, and that's it. And I can feel the beauty, the magic of all of it. Um, Something that gets in the way of receptivity is, in Hindu traditions they call it Rurnanabandha, but it's a lot of physical memory that the body carries. We can exchange it through hugs, through holding hands, through different things, through going to certain places, but physical proximity, and above all, sexual interaction creates the greatest amount of this. And I've spent uh, almost a decade, like, I drank ayahuasca well over 100 times, maybe like hundreds. And a big part, and many of those for years, was clearing out the debris, the leftovers of past partners, even women with whom it's like, when I was 17 years old and it happened once and it was consensual and it was fun. And it's like there were leftovers of their energy within me. And I learned this, that if the energy becomes, like, if I start to gather too much, eventually I'm going to be a little suffocated. I'm not going to feel my life, which is, in my 20s, is like no amount of women was enough. Like, every week we had to meet another woman or have another extreme sexual experience, because I felt numb. So every time we had to amp up the voltage of what we were exploring. And this only leads to usually degradation, depression, because we think we need more. I confront every man that wants more women. Actually, what he's craving is more sensitivity, more receptivity, and this actually happens by less, by simplifying. Like, after the vision quest, or I've done 10-day fasts. When you eat something, when you drink something, that's when you really taste it, because you've been deprived of it, because everything
Yeah.
gets reset. Same, I think most men that want multiple women, um, like, I don't think that could work if a man is committed to his spiritual journey, because the amount of memory that his body will gather will make it very hard, very difficult, or very painful to be sensitive to it.
Yeah. Yeah, that definitely struck a chord with a lot of people. And I think, I love thought-provoking conversations, like not talking about or gossiping or judging, just like observing and then observing what comes up for me, what comes up
Hmm.
in my life and my views. And I'm always navigating that of like, okay, well, what's someone's truth versus the truth, and that deep concept. So was curious your perspective on that. I think my last question would be, what do you feel romantic partners are here to teach us in this lifetime?
Mm. So they're here to teach us what everything is here to teach us. I'll tell you a quick story. There was this man that I met, a medicine man in the mountains of Colombia when I was living in the Ayahuasca community many years ago. A beautiful man. He woke up at 5 a.m., chopped wood, carry water. He was there supporting the ceremonies. He had been drinking medicine for decades, and he had a little finca, like a little rural cottage, um, just next to the shaman's land. And he was like a part of the community. And I would spend long nights chatting with him. And I remember when I met him, he was just coming out of a relationship. And I'm like, what's going on, man? He said, no, no, it's not my thing. Like she started staying over, but I felt like I couldn't have peace. And he was already in his 50s. He like I couldn't have much peace, and I'm in my spiritual path. I'm doing my thing, and I'm not in a place where I want to be disturbed or have to deal with a lot of petty drama and whatnot. So he broke up with her. I'm like, okay, makes sense. This guy is clear about what he wants. I think like 2 months later, I met with him again. He came to visit. I'm like, hey man, what's going on? And he said, my family came to visit. My mom is very sick. He has, I think he has 8 siblings. He's like and he's the youngest. He's like, my 8 siblings. Nobody wants to take care of my mom. She's sick, so my mom is staying at my place. But it's a pain in the ass because they kind of just dropped her here, and I have to deal with her, and nobody's supporting with anything, and I don't have time for my own things. And throughout the whole day, she always wants to talk to me and wants something, and I just can't have any peace. I can't have time just to be with myself and whatnot. And my mind, I'm like, okay. He said, yeah, I just want some peace. So I'm chatting with my siblings to make sure that they take her to the city where a few of them live so they can take care of her. I thought, yeah, if that's your boundary, it makes sense. All right. I left. I came back a year later, and I ran into him, and he had just asked him, hey man, how are things going? And he's like, you know what? Oh, he took me to, he's like, you know what? I built a house. I moved from my land. I left my mom there with my siblings, but I really wanted to be, just to have a little cabin by myself so that I could be at peace. He said, he showed me his cabin, and he said, you know what? I came here. He built it with his own hands. It took him several months. He said, you know what? I moved in here 2 weeks ago. And the first night I was so excited because this has been my dream for a long time. So I unpacked everything, put everything inside the cabin. I came outside, chopped some wood, made a fire, grabbed my chair. He said, and the moment I sat down, I could hear it. I'm like, hear what? He said, the waterfalls that are nearby. I'm like, okay. He said, yeah. And I thought, oh fuck, I hadn't thought about it. I just want to relax. Like, I just want to be at peace. This noise is so annoying, whatnot. And he started like breaking down because he was frustrated. And in that moment, he became aware of that. He's like, it's not my romantic partner. It's not my mother. Like, I am, the frustration is mine. Life is just trying to bring as many mirrors as possible. And right now, even the waterfall takes him out of his sense of peace, becomes the annoying thing that he uses to see that part of himself. And he said, like, he cried and he sobbed and he understood that it was him all along. And he like forgave himself, he forgave his siblings, his mother. He asked for forgiveness as well, also forgiveness to the waterfalls. Like I'm sorry, and he was in tears when he was sharing. So when you ask what's the role that our romantic partners play, same role that everything plays in our life, but with our romantic partners, because they have a mouth and they live close to us, it's more evident. And the role is to help us see parts of ourselves that we would rather not see. And that's also the tricky part, because it's so easy. With my wife, there's so many times that I look at her and I'm thinking, this time for sure it's you, like 100%. You're the problem, 100%. I've had moments like that when I'm stubborn. I'm like, I'm good. I'm communicating well. I'm impeccable. I'm loyal. I'm conscious. Like, for sure, this time it's my wife. And the more that I point the finger, the more that I am certain it's not me, the deeper the thing is, the less I want to look at it. The more shame is trying to prevent me, to protect me from tapping into a part of me that I really don't want to face. So our romantic partners are, I think, in some way, they are um, a great friend that comes to help us get free by reminding us of where we are not yet free.
Yeah, a great explanation. Cool. Well, we hit all the points. I mean, this was, yeah, really insightful. When I saw your post, I was really sure that I wanted to ask your perspective on these things, and the explanations and, all of your beliefs are really beautiful. And yeah, something about Colombian people for me. They're just so plugged in and connected, and the culture in general. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, thank you so much. Where can people reach you?
So on Instagram, at Nico Canon _, you can find me there. People that are interested in plant medicine, ayahuascacolombia.com, you can find there, or Ayahuasca Colombia on YouTube. You can find, I think, over 200 educational videos for people who are from pros, people who have drunk a lot of medicine and want to go deeper, to
Pros.
those that are to those that are curious about their very first ceremonies and how to prepare properly. Those are probably the main ways.
Amazing. And as always, if you are interested in exploring health, wellness, spirituality, I'm always here to help share some modalities that have helped me in my life with some pretty cool people that I trust. And you can find me at Your Conscious Concierge on Instagram or www.yourconsciousconcierge.com. Thank you so much.